Jake Morrison floated through the dark corridors of the dead alien station. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor as the artificial gravity kicked in and out. The beam from his flashlight cut through the darkness, showing walls, covered in strange symbols and dust. He had been a salvage operator for 5 years now. Before that, he served in Earth's Navy for 10 years. Now he worked alone, searching for valuable scrap in the empty parts of space. It was dangerous work, but it paid well when he found something good. This station was bigger than anything he had seen before. It hung in the void like a giant metal spider, its arms reaching out into the black. His ship, the Lucky Strike, was docked to one of the smaller arms. He had been exploring for 3 hours and found nothing valuable yet. Jake owed money to the Galactic Trade Consortium, a lot of money. If he did not pay them back soon, they would take his ship. Without his ship, he would have nothing. This station had to have something worth taking. He walked down another corridor, checking each room. Most were empty. Some had broken equipment that was too damaged to sell. His scanner beeped softly, showing life support systems that still worked in parts of the station. "Come on," he said to himself. "Give me something good." The corridor opened into a larger room. Jake's flashlight beam swept across banks of computers and control panels. Everything looked old but intact. This might be worth something. He walked over to examine the equipment more closely. That was when he saw the other door. It was different from the others. Bigger. Made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow slightly in his flashlight beam. Strange symbols covered its surface, and there was a panel next to it with buttons that still glowed red. Jake had learned to be careful around alien technology. Some of it was dangerous. But he was also curious, and curiosity had made him good at his job. He walked over to the door and looked at the control panel. The symbols meant nothing to him, but there were 3 buttons. One was red, one was yellow, and one was green. On human ships, green usually meant go and red meant stop. Maybe it was the same here. He pressed the green button. Nothing happened for a few seconds. Then lights began to turn on throughout the room. Computer screens flickered to life. Somewhere in the walls, machinery began to hum. The door made a loud hissing sound and began to open. Cold air rushed out, carrying a smell like metal and medicine. Jake stepped back as the door slid all the way open. Inside was another room. This one filled with strange pods that looked like metal eggs standing upright. His flashlight showed that most of the pods were empty and broken. But in the center of the room, one pod was intact. It was larger than the others, and frost covered its surface. Through a small window in the front, Jake could see something inside. It looked like a person. Jake moved closer, his heart beating faster. The pod was definitely occupied. He could see a face through the frosted window. It looked human, but that was impossible. This station was far from any human colony. Warning lights began flashing around the room. A voice spoke in an alien language Jake did not understand. But then another voice answered, and this one spoke English. "Systems activated. Beginning revival sequence." Jake stepped back in surprise. The pod was talking, and it was talking in English. Steam began to pour from vents around the pod. The frost on the window melted away, and Jake could see more clearly. Now, it was definitely a human inside. A woman with pale skin and dark hair. She looked young, maybe 30 years old. The pod made more hissing sounds. Then it began to open. The woman inside opened her eyes. They were bright blue, almost glowing in the dim light. She looked around the room until her gaze found Jake. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she stepped out of the pod. She was tall, almost as tall as Jake. She wore a simple gray outfit that looked like it might be some kind of uniform. Her movements were smooth and confident, like a dancer or a fighter. "You freed me," she said. Her voice was clear and strong, but there was something old about it, something that made Jake think of deep places and long sleep. "I am Kate Sullivan. How long have I been asleep?" Jake found his voice. "I don't know. This station has been dead for a long time, maybe years." Kate smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a wolf might make when it found something to hunt. Years, she repeated. The Hegemony Council thought they could keep me contained forever. They were wrong. The Hegemony? Jake knew that name. They controlled most of the galaxy. They were the ones who made the rules that everyone else had to follow. They are the reason I was imprisoned, Kate said. She walked around the room, looking at the broken pods. Tell me, human, what is your name? Jake Morrison. Jake Morrison. She said it like she was tasting the words. And why are you here, Jake Morrison? This station is very far from human space. I'm a salvage operator. I was looking for valuable equipment. Kate laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. Valuable equipment. Yes, I suppose I am valuable. The Hegemony certainly thought so. She turned to face him directly. Tell me, Jake Morrison, do you have enemies? The question surprised him. Everyone has enemies. Good answer. Kate's smile became wider and more dangerous. I have a debt to repay to those who imprisoned me, but first I will help you with your problems. It seems fair since you freed me. Jake heard something in the distance, a sound like engines. His heart sank as he recognized what it was. Ships, big ones, getting closer. Kate heard it too. Her, head tilted to one side, listening. Hegemony patrol ships. They must have detected the station coming online. She looked at Jake again. How fast is your ship? Fast enough, but not faster than military ships. Then we will have to be clever, instead of fast. Kate walked toward the door. Come, Jake Morrison, time to leave. But first, tell me about these enemies of yours. Which one has caused you the most trouble? Jake thought about Admiral Carter, his old commanding officer who had been hunting him for months. He thought about the debts he owed and the people who wanted to take his ship. There are a few, he said. Kate stopped walking and turned back to him. Her blue eyes seemed to glow brighter in the dim light. Good, she said. Which enemy of yours dies first? The question hit Jake like a cold wind. This woman, whoever she really was not asking if he wanted revenge. She was asking him to choose who would die. The sound of the approaching ships was getting louder. Jake realized that his life had just changed in ways he could not understand. He had come looking for valuable salvage. Instead, he had found something far more dangerous and far more valuable than any equipment. He had found Kate Sullivan, and she was offering to kill his enemies. Jake's ship jumped into hyperspace just as the Hegemony patrol ships reached the station. Kate sat in the co-pilot seat, studying the controls with interest. She had not spoken much during their escape, but Jake could feel her watching everything. He did. Your ship is well maintained, she said finally. Old but reliable. Earth Navy design? Modified freighter, Jake replied. He was still trying to understand what had happened back at the station. How did you know I was Navy? Kate smiled. The way you move, the way you check your instruments. Military training never really leaves a person. She leaned back in her seat. I was military once too, a long time ago. Jake set the autopilot and turned to face her. Just how long were you in that pod? 300 years, give or take a decade. Kate said it like she was talking about the weather. Time moves differently when you are in cryogenic sleep. 300 years. Jake tried to imagine sleeping that long and waking up to find everything changed. What did you do to make them lock you up for so long? Kate's smile faded. I discovered something they did not want anyone to know. About humans. About what we can become. She stood up and walked to the small window that showed the swirling colors of hyperspace. Tell me about your enemies, Jake Morrison. Start with the worst one. Jake thought about it. There were the debt collectors who wanted his ship. There were pirates who had attacked him twice in the last year. But the worst one was definitely Admiral Carter. Admiral Rex Carter, he said. He used to be my commanding officer. Now he hunts human ships in this sector and claims they are pirates. Claims they are pirates? They are not pirates. They are just trying to make a living. But Carter boards their ships and takes their cargo. Sometimes the ships disappear completely. Jake's hands tightened into fists. He has been after me for months. Says I stole military equipment when I left the Navy. Did you? No. But Carter does not care about the truth, Kate nodded slowly. And this Admiral Carter commands what kind of ship? A dreadnought called the Iron Fist. Big ship with heavy weapons and a full crew. Where is this ship now? Jake checked his navigation computer. According to my sources, it should be near the Theta Centauri system. There is an asteroid mining operation there. Carter likes to shake down the miners for protection money. Kate was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned away from the window and looked at Jake with those bright blue eyes. I will help you with Admiral Carter, she said. But first I need to show you something. Set course for the Theta Centauri system, but keep us hidden in the asteroid field when we arrive. Jake changed course and settled back to wait. Hyperspace. Travel took time, even with a good ship. What are you going to show me? What I really am, Kate said, and what you could become. They reached the Theta Centauri system 8 hours later. Jake brought the Lucky Strike out of hyperspace behind, a large asteroid hidden from sensors. The asteroid field was full of mining ships and processing stations, and there, orbiting the largest asteroid, was the Iron Fist. The dreadnought was huge. It was 3 times the size of Jake's ship and bristled with weapons. Fighter ships moved around it like insects around a hive. There, Jake said, pointing at the screen. That is Admiral Carter's ship. Kate studied the display. Impressive, but not impossible. She stood up and walked toward the airlock. I will be back in a few hours. Jake jumped up. Where are you going? To get information. Kate began putting on a spacesuit, but it was unlike any suit Jake had ever seen. It was thin and flexible, more like a second skin than bulky armor. I need to know more about your Admiral Carter before I decide how to deal with him. You cannot just walk over to that ship. They will shoot you on sight. Kate finished putting on the suit and picked up a small device that looked like a metal egg. They will not see me coming. Before Jake could stop her, Kate opened the airlock and stepped out into space. Jake watched in shock as Kate moved away from his ship without any kind of propulsion system. She simply pushed herself away from the Lucky Strike, and glided through space toward the Iron Fist. No rocket pack, no thruster system, just her body moving through the vacuum. That was impossible. No one could survive in space without a proper suit and life support system. Jake lost sight of her as she reached the dreadnought. His sensors could not detect her anymore. It was as if she had vanished. He waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. Jake began to worry that something had gone wrong. The Iron Fist showed no signs of alarm, but that might not mean anything. Then Kate appeared on his sensors again. She was moving back toward the Lucky Strike, carrying something large under her arm. When she came through the airlock, Jake saw what she had brought. It was a computer core from the Iron Fist, a piece of equipment that should have been impossible to remove without shutting down the entire ship. How did you do that? Jake asked. Kate removed her suit and set the computer core on the work table. I told you I would show you what I really am. She placed her hand on the computer core and closed her eyes. The computer core began to glow. Lights flickered across its surface, and data began flowing onto Jake's ship's computers. In seconds, Kate had downloaded terabytes of information from Admiral Carter's personal files. Jake stared at the screens filled with data. That is impossible. Computer cores have security systems, encryption, password protection. Not for me, Kate said. She removed her hand from the core and looked at the data flowing across the screens. Interesting. Your Admiral Carter has been very busy. Jake read over the files. What he saw made his blood run cold. Carter had not just been shaking down miners and merchants. He had been systematically hunting human settlements across the sector. Ships that disappeared were not destroyed. They were captured. The people on them were being taken somewhere. This is a list of human colonies, Jake said, reading from one file. Carter has been marking them for attack. Not just attack, Kate said, pointing to another file. Look at this. Jake read the file she indicated. It was correspondence between Carter and someone in the Hegemony Council. They were planning something called Final Solution Protocol. They want to eliminate all human settlements in this sector, Jake said, his voice barely a whisper. Make it look like pirate attacks. Kate nodded. Your Admiral Carter is working for the Hegemony. He is not just corrupt. He is a traitor to his own species. Jake felt sick. Carter had been his commanding officer. Jake had served under him for 3 years. Why would he do this? Fear, Kate said simply. The Hegemony is afraid of what humans might become. They prefer us scattered and weak. She turned to face Jake directly. But they are right to be afraid. Kate placed her hand on Jake's arm. Immediately, Jake felt something change. Energy flowed through him like electricity. But it did not hurt. Instead, he felt stronger, faster. His vision became sharper and he could hear the quiet hum of the ship's systems more clearly than before. What did you do to me? He asked. I showed you a small part of what you already are, Kate said. Every human has this potential. The Hegemony has spent centuries trying to keep us from discovering it. Jake looked at his hands. They looked the same, but he could feel power flowing through them. This is what got you imprisoned? This is what terrifies them, Kate confirmed. 1 human with awakened abilities can disable a battleship. 100 humans could conquer a star system. The Hegemony knows this. Jake understood now why Kate had been locked away for 300 years. She was not just dangerous to individuals. She was dangerous to the entire galactic order. What do you want me to do? He asked. Kate smiled that dangerous smile again. Help me wake up more humans. Help me show them what they can become. She gestured at the data from Carter's ship. And help me stop Admiral Carter before he kills any more of our people. Jake looked at the files showing Carter's plans. Innocent. Human families were going to die if they did not act, but fighting a dreadnought with just his small ship was suicide. How do we stop a ship like the Iron Fist? We do not fight the ship, Kate said. We turn it against itself. Admiral Carter thinks he is hunting pirates. Let us show him what real pirates can do. Jake realized that Kate was not just offering to help him get revenge on Carter. She was offering to start a war that would change everything, and for the first time in months Jake felt hope. The Hegemony fortress world of Nexus Prime hung in space like a metal moon. Jake had never seen anything so heavily defended. Weapons platforms surrounded the planet, and warships patrolled in organized patterns. Getting close to that world seemed impossible, but Kate had a plan. Admiral Carter is meeting with the Hegemony High Council today, she said, studying the intelligence they had gathered. He thinks he's getting a promotion for his good work against human pirates. Jake checked his ship's sensors again. The Lucky Strike was hidden behind a small moon, but he still felt exposed. How do you know about this meeting? I downloaded his personal calendar when I visited his ship, Kate replied, along with many other useful things. She pointed to a display showing the planet's surface. The meeting is in the Central Command Complex. Very secure, but not impossible. To reach. For you, maybe. I am just a regular human. Kate looked at him with those bright blue eyes. You are more than you think, Jake Morrison. The changes I started in you are still growing. In time, you will be able to do things that seem impossible. Jake could feel it. The energy Kate had awakened in him was getting stronger. His reflexes were faster, his thoughts clearer, but he was still far from whatever Kate had become. Even if we get to the planet's surface, how do we find Carter in a fortress that size? Kate smiled. We do not find him. We make him come to us. They approached Nexus Prime in a stolen Hegemony transport ship. Kate had taken it from a supply convoy 3 days earlier, along with proper identification codes. To the Fortress World sensors, they looked like another routine supply delivery. The planet's surface was covered in massive buildings made of black metal and glass. Transport ships moved between the buildings like insects. Jake had never seen so much military activity in one place. Remember, Kate said as they descended toward the landing platform, let me do the talking. Your job is to stay close and watch for trouble. They docked at a cargo platform near the Central Command Complex. Jake wore a stolen hegemony uniform that Kate had somehow acquired. It fit perfectly, which worried him. He did not want to know what had happened to its original owner. Two hegemony guards met them at the airlock. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. Jake had seen their kind before in the outer colonies. "State your business," one guard said in accented English. Kate stepped forward. She wore the uniform of a hegemony intelligence officer, and her entire manner had changed. She moved and spoke like someone who belonged here. "Special delivery for the High Council meeting," she said, showing a datapad with official-looking documents. "Priority cargo from Sector Command." The guard examined the documents. "This was not on our schedule." "It would not be," Kate replied smoothly. "Admiral Carter requested this delivery personally. Something about evidence against human pirates." Jake tried to look like a bored cargo handler while his heart pounded. If these guards decided to verify Kate's story, they would be caught immediately. The guard handed back the datapad. "Proceed to Cargo Bay 7. Someone will meet you there." They walked through corridors filled with activity. Hegemony officials hurried past them carrying datapads and speaking in urgent whispers. Jake caught fragments of conversation in different, alien languages, but the tone was the same everywhere. Something big was happening. "What is going on here?" Jake whispered to Kate. "They are preparing for war," she replied quietly. "The question is, war against whom?" They reached Cargo Bay 7 and found it empty, except for one person. Jake's blood froze when he recognized her. Commander Lisa Park stood near the loading dock, wearing a hegemony intelligence uniform. She was older than Jake remembered, with new lines around her eyes, but it was definitely her, his former lover, the woman who had chosen her career over their relationship. Lisa's eyes widened when she saw Jake. "What are you doing here?" Kate stepped between them before Jake could answer. "Commander Park, I presume. We have the evidence Admiral Carter requested." Lisa looked from Kate to Jake and back again. "I do not know anything about evidence, and I want to know why Jake Morrison is on this base." "Because I brought him," Kate said. Her voice had changed. It was colder now, more dangerous. "He has information the Admiral needs." Jake watched Lisa's face as she studied Kate. Lisa had always been good at reading people. It was what made her a good intelligence officer. "Who are you?" Lisa asked Kate. Kate smiled that predatory smile. "Someone who has been asleep for a very long time. But I am awake now." Before Lisa could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the base. Emergency lights flashed red, and automated voices announced something in the hegemony language. Lisa grabbed a communication device from her belt. "Control, this is Park. What is the situation?" A panicked voice answered in English. "Commander, we have a security breach in the archive section. Something has triggered the ancient protocols." Kate's smile became wider. "That would be my fault." Lisa stared at her. "What did you do?" "I accessed the base's computer system," Kate said. "Amazing what you can learn when you know how to ask the right questions." The alarms got louder. More voices were shouting over the communication channels. Jake heard words like lockdown and emergency protocols. Lisa drew her sidearm and pointed it at Kate. "I do not know who you are, but you are under arrest." Kate looked at the weapon with amusement. "Commander Park, you should know that Admiral Carter has been lying to you about everything." "What are you talking about?" "The human ships he has been destroying, the colonies he has been attacking. He told you they were pirates, did he not?" Lisa's hand holding the gun wavered slightly. "They were pirates. We had intelligence." "Intelligence that Carter provided," Kate said. "Intelligence that he created. There were no pirates, Commander. Only innocent humans trying to live their lives." Jake watched Lisa's face as Kate spoke. He could see doubt creeping in. Lisa had always been honest, even when it hurt. If she was starting to suspect Carter had been lying to her, "Prove it," Lisa said. Kate reached into her uniform and pulled out a data storage device. "Everything is on here. Admiral Carter's real orders, his communications with the Hegemony Council, The locations of the prison camps where they are keeping human captives. Prison camps? Hundreds of humans, Commander. Men, women, children, all captured during Carter's fake anti-piracy operations, all being held for experimental purposes. Lisa lowered her weapon slightly. That is impossible. Admiral Carter would never... Her words were interrupted by another alarm. This one was different, deeper, and more urgent. A new voice came over the communication system. This one spoke in perfect English with a tone of absolute authority. Attention all personnel. Patient 0 has been detected on this facility. Repeat, Patient 0 is active on Nexus Prime. All personnel are to implement Containment Protocol 7 immediately. Lisa went pale. Patient 0? That is impossible. Patient 0 is a myth, Kate laughed. I am many things, Commander Park, but I am not a myth. The lights in the cargo bay began to dim. Emergency barriers started sliding down over the doors. The base was going into complete lockdown. They know I am here, Kate said to Jake. Time to go. Lisa raised her weapon again. Nobody is going anywhere. Kate moved faster than Jake's eyes could follow. One moment she was standing 3 meters away from Lisa. The next moment she was right in front of her, holding Lisa's gun. I do not want to hurt you, Commander, Kate said gently. But I will if you try to stop us. Lisa stared at Kate in shock. How did you move that fast? 300 years of sleep gave me time to evolve, Kate replied. She handed the gun back to Lisa. Jake can explain everything. But first, we need to get off this base. Jake looked around the cargo bay. The emergency barriers were almost completely closed. Soon they would be trapped. Kate, the exits are sealed. Then we will make our own exit. Kate walked over to the outer wall of the cargo bay. It was made of reinforced metal 3 meters thick. She placed her hand against it and closed her eyes. The wall began to glow where she touched it. The metal grew hot and started to melt. Lisa dropped her gun. What is she? Jake picked up the weapon and handed it back to her. She is what humans can become when we stop limiting ourselves. The wall melted completely through. Beyond it was the open sky of Nexus Prime and a drop of 50 meters to the ground. Can you fly? Kate asked Jake. No. Then hold on tight. Kate wrapped her arm around Jake's waist and jumped through the hole she had created. They fell toward the ground far below, but Kate controlled their descent somehow. They landed softly on a transport platform. Jake looked up at the hole in the side of the fortress. How did we survive that fall? The same way I survived 300 years in space, Kate said. The same way you will survive what comes next. Above them, the fortress was in chaos. Ships were launching from every platform. Searchlights swept the area looking for them. Kate found an abandoned transport vehicle and placed her hand on its control panel. The vehicle started immediately, even though it had no key. Where are we going? Jake asked as they lifted off. To find Admiral Carter, Kate replied, and to show him what happens when someone betrays their own species. Behind them, Nexus Prime burned with emergency lights and alarm signals. Jake realized that Kate had not just broken into the most secure facility in hegemony space. She had announced to the entire galaxy that The attack came without warning. Jake was sleeping in his bunk aboard the Lucky Strike when the ship's alarms woke him. Kate was already in the cockpit, her fingers dancing over the controls with impossible speed. What is happening? Jake asked, pulling on his clothes. The hegemony found us, Kate replied without looking away from the screens. 3 battlecruisers closing fast. Jake looked at the tactical display. The enemy ships were huge compared to his small freighter. We cannot fight them. We do not need to fight them, Kate said. We need to escape and warn the others. What? Others? Kate's hands moved over the controls and the Lucky Strike jumped into hyperspace just as the first enemy missiles reached their position. The other humans, she said. The hegemony is not just hunting us anymore. They are attacking every human settlement in this sector. Jake felt his stomach drop. All of them? Kate nodded grimly. Your friend Commander Park contacted me after we escaped Nexus Prime. She managed to access Admiral Carter's real orders before the base went into lockdown. The Hegemony Council has authorized what they call the Final Solution Protocol, which means they are going to eliminate every human outside of Earth's solar system. All of us. Men, women, children, everyone. Jake stared at the swirling colors of hyperspace. He had known the Hegemony disliked humans, but he had never imagined they would try something like this. How long do we have? The attack started 6 hours ago, Kate said. 12 colonies have already gone silent, but something unexpected is happening. She brought up a communication screen showing dozens of messages from across human space. Jake read them with growing amazement. Mining Station Bravo 7 had fought off a Hegemony attack force. The miners had somehow disabled 3 warships with their bare hands. On New Terra Colony, a farming family had survived a bombing by walking through fire that should have killed them instantly. A merchant ship crew had been captured by Hegemony forces, but they had broken out of their prison cells by tearing through solid metal doors. They are awakening, Kate said quietly. All across human space, people are discovering what they can do when they stop believing in limitations. Jake thought about the energy he felt flowing through his own body. It was stronger now than when Kate had first awakened it. Is this because of what you did to me? Partly, but mostly, it is because they are fighting for their lives. Extreme stress can trigger the awakening process. Kate's expression was grim. The Hegemony wanted to destroy us before we could evolve. Instead, they have forced us to evolve faster. The Lucky Strike dropped out of hyperspace near a small asteroid mining station. Jake expected to see wreckage, but the station was intact. More than intact. It had been modified with weapons and armor that had not been there before. This is Mining Station Charlie 4, Kate said into the communication system. Request permission to dock. A familiar voice answered. Kate? This is Ben Taylor. Thank God you're alive. Jake looked at Kate in surprise. You know someone here? Kate's face had gone pale. Ben Taylor was my research partner 300 years ago. He was supposed to be executed along with me. They docked at the station, and Jake followed Kate through the airlock. The man waiting for them was tall and thin, with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like he had not slept in days. Ben, Kate said softly. How are you alive? Ben Taylor smiled sadly. The same way you are. Cryogenic sleep, but they did not keep me locked up like they did you, they made me work. Work on what? Ways to stop the awakening process. Ways to control humans who had already awakened. Ben's voice was bitter. For 300 years I helped them develop weapons to use against our own people. Kate stared at him. You helped them? They told me you were dead. They said if I cooperated, they would spare Earth. I believed them. Ben gestured around the station. But when the attack started, I realized they had been lying all along. Jake looked around the station. He could see that it had been heavily modified. The miners who worked here looked different too. Stronger, more alert. Their eyes had the same bright quality he had seen in Kate's. How many people are here? Jake asked. 50 miners and their families, Ben replied. All awakened. Now, we have been sharing information with other human settlements, teaching them how to control their new abilities. Kate walked over to a wall display showing a map of human space. Red dots marked settlements that had gone silent. Green dots showed places that were still fighting. The Hegemony is learning too, she said. They are using weapons specifically, designed to counter-awakened humans. What kind of weapons? Ben answered. Energy dampeners, devices that interfere with the bioelectric fields that power our abilities. They can make an awakened human as helpless as an ordinary person. Jake felt a chill. So we can be stopped. For now, Kate said, but we are evolving faster than they can adapt. Each generation of awakened humans is stronger than the last. A communication alarm sounded throughout the station. One of the miners called out from a control station. Kate, we are getting a distress signal from New Boston Colony. They are under attack by a full battle group. Kate studied the tactical display. New Boston has over 10,000 people. If the Hegemony takes it, They will have enough human prisoners to perfect their dampening weapons, Ben finished. We have to help them. Jake looked at the display showing the enemy force attacking New Boston. There were 12 heavy warships and countless smaller vessels. How can one mining station help against that many ships? Kate turned to face the assembled miners and their families. Who here is willing to fight? Every person in the room raised their hand. Even the children? Jake asked in shock. A young girl, maybe 12 years old, stepped forward. Mister, I can lift things with my mind now. I can see through walls. Why would I be afraid of some aliens? In big ships? Jake realized that awakened humans were not just stronger and faster. They were completely fearless. The thing that had always limited humanity, fear of death, fear of pain, fear of failure, was gone. What is the plan? Ben asked. Kate smiled, and for the first time since Jake had known her, it was a happy smile instead of a dangerous one. We are going to show the hegemony what happens when they threaten human children, she said. We are going to save New Boston, and then we are going to take the fight to them. Jake watched as the miners began preparing for battle. They moved with perfect coordination, like they could read each other's minds. Their equipment was jury-rigged and improvised, but their confidence was absolute. Kate, he said quietly. Are we starting a war? No, Jake, she replied. We are finishing one. The hegemony started this war 300 years ago when they decided humanity was too dangerous to live. They just did not expect us to fight back. The mining station began moving toward New Boston Colony. Jake realized that they were not just going to rescue the people there. They were going to begin the liberation of every human in the galaxy. The Awakening War had begun, and for the first time in human history, they were not fighting just to survive. They were fighting to become something greater than anyone had ever imagined possible. Jake felt the energy flowing through him grow stronger as they approached the battle. Soon he would discover what he was truly capable of. Soon the galaxy would learn why humans were the most dangerous species ever born. The final battle began at the heart of the galaxy. Jake stood on the bridge of the new flagship Liberty, watching the massive hegemony fleet defend their capital system. 3 months had passed since the Awakening War began, and everything had changed. Humanity was no longer hiding among the stars. Awakened humans had liberated colony after colony, their abilities growing stronger with each victory. Ships that once took crews of hundreds now operated with just a handful of enhanced humans who could interface directly with the technology. Admiral Morrison, came a voice from the communication station. Jake still felt strange being called Admiral, but his tactical abilities had evolved along with his other enhancements. He could see patterns in space battles that others missed, coordinate multiple fleets across vast distances with perfect timing. Yes, Commander Park? Lisa Park had joined them after Admiral Carter's betrayal was fully exposed. She now led the Intelligence Division of the Human Liberation Fleet. We have located the Hegemony High Council. They are in the central fortress on Centauri Prime. Jake studied the tactical display. The enemy had gathered every ship they could find around their capital world. It was the largest fleet in galactic history. Any word from Kate? She reached the planet's surface an hour ago. No communication since then. Jake nodded. Kate had gone ahead to infiltrate the fortress while the fleet prepared for the final assault. She was searching for something specific, the truth about humanity's origins that the hegemony had hidden for millennia. Admiral, called out another voice. Enemy fleet is moving to intercept. 2,000 ships, all heavy cruisers or larger. Jake looked at his own fleet. They had maybe 300 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels. By any normal calculation, they were about to be destroyed. But normal calculations did not apply to awakened humans. All ships prepare for battle, Jake commanded. Remember, we are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human who will be born in the centuries to come. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human ships moved through the enemy formations like ghosts, their crews able to predict and counter every weapon system the hegemony deployed. Awakened humans in spacesuits walked across the hulls of enemy vessels, tearing through armor plating with their bare hands to disable weapons from the outside. Jake watched one of his destroyers ram straight through a hegemony battleship, the enhanced crew surviving the impact and fighting their way through the enemy vessel to capture it from within. But the real battle was happening on the planet below. Kate moved through the corridors of the hegemony fortress like a force of nature. Guards fired energy weapons at her, but she absorbed the blasts and used the energy to move even faster. Security doors that could stop tank rounds crumpled like paper when she touched them. She found what she was looking for in the deepest level of the fortress. Dr. Ben Taylor stood in the center of a laboratory, but he was no longer the tired old man Jake had met at the mining station. The hegemony had enhanced him with alien technology, turning him into something that was barely human anymore. "Kate," he said when she entered the room. His voice was distorted by the mechanical devices, grafted to his throat. "I wondered when you would find me." "Hello, Ben." Kate looked around the laboratory. It was filled with cages containing humans in various stages of enhancement and mutation. "What have they done to you?" "They made me better," Ben replied. "Stronger, more intelligent, free from the emotional weaknesses that plague ordinary humans." Kate walked closer, studying the alien technology that covered most of Ben's body. "They made you into a slave. They made me into a god." Ben raised his hand and energy crackled between his fingers. "I can control matter at the molecular level now. I can reshape reality with a thought." "Can you still choose?" Kate asked quietly. Ben paused. "What do you mean?" "Can you choose to stop this war? Can you choose to free these prisoners? Can you choose to remember what it means to be human?" For a moment, Ben's face showed uncertainty. Then the alien devices attached to his skull began to glow, and his expression became cold again. "Humanity is a failed experiment," he said. "The Hegemony Council has shown me the truth. We are descendants of an ancient species that nearly destroyed the galaxy. They had to be stopped then, and we must be stopped now." Kate nodded sadly. "I know about our ancestors, Ben. I found the records in the Fortress database. We are not the first humans to discover these abilities. Then you know why we must be contained." "I know why they fear us," Kate corrected. "Our ancestors were not evil. They were just powerful, and power without wisdom is dangerous." Ben raised both hands, energy building around him like a storm. "It does not matter now. I will stop you here, and the fleet will destroy your ships above. Humanity's awakening ends today." Kate closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, not to attack Ben, but to touch the consciousness of every awakened human in the galaxy. Across space, millions of enhanced humans felt her call. On the planet's surface, Jake felt it too as he led ground forces against the fortress. They all understood what Kate was asking of them: trust, unity, the willingness to become something greater than individual humans. The awakened humans across the galaxy linked their minds together, sharing their abilities and knowledge. Jake found himself seeing through 1,000 eyes, thinking with 1,000,000 enhanced minds, feeling the strength of every human who had ever chosen to evolve beyond their limitations. In the laboratory, Ben staggered as he felt the combined will of awakened humanity focus on him. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Individual minds cannot link across such distances." "We are not individual anymore," Kate said gently. "We are becoming what we were always meant to be. One species, united in purpose." Ben tried to attack, but his alien enhancements were designed to control one human mind. They could not handle the combined consciousness of millions of awakened humans flowing through Kate. The devices grafted to his body began to overload and shut down. For the first time in centuries, Ben Taylor was free to choose his own thoughts. He looked around the laboratory at the caged humans, then back at Kate. "What have I done?" he whispered. "What you had to do to survive," Kate replied. "But now you can choose to do better." Above them, the space battle was ending. Hegemony ships surrendered by the hundreds as their crews realized they were fighting an enemy that could not be defeated by conventional weapons. Jake led the final assault on the fortress, awakened humans flowing through its defenses like water through a broken dam. They freed the prisoners, captured the Hegemony Council, and secured the ancient archives that contained the truth about humanity's origins. When the fighting was over, Jake found Kate in the fortress's central chamber. She was standing before a massive display showing the entire galaxy. "Is it finished?" he asked. Kate turned to him with that smile that was no longer dangerous, but peaceful. "The war is finished, but our real work is just beginning." "What do you mean?" Kate gestured at the galactic display. "There are other species out there, Jake. Some of them are oppressed like we were. Some of them have potential like we had. And some of them are afraid of what they might become." Jake understood. "You want to help them awaken too. I want to give them the same choice you gave me," Kate said. "The choice to become more than they ever thought possible." Jake looked out at the stars and thought about all the worlds waiting to be discovered, all the species waiting to learn what they could become if they stopped accepting limitations. "Where do we start?" he asked. Kate's smile became wider. "Everywhere, Jake. We start everywhere." In the months that followed, human ships appeared at the edges of countless star systems. Their crews made the same offer to every species they encountered. "We are here to help you become what you are meant to be. Which limitation of yours would you like to overcome first?" The galaxy would never be the same, and Jake Morrison, former salvage operator turned admiral of the Liberation Fleet, learned that sometimes the most valuable thing you can find in the darkness of space is not treasure or technology. Sometimes it is hope, the hope to become something greater than you ever imagined possible.